We're KC101, and yes, indeed, it's time for another edition of Saturday with Seniors, brought to you by Eisenhower's Tioga County Harley-Davidson. You'll find them south of Mansfield. When it comes to winter storage for your bike, you can ask about the options they have down there. Maybe you need some service work done while your bike is served. They can take care of that, too. And, of course, it's not quite time to bring your bike down there, but you can start thinking a little bit ahead at Eisenhower's, the sponsor of Saturday with Seniors. Today, Corky Hinman joining us. And hello, Corky. How are you?
Well, I'm best I can be with what I am.
Best you can be? Well, a positive outlook you've got. Can I ask you how old you are, Corky?
83 years old.
Wow, okay. Well, tell me about where did you grow up? Where were you born?
Portland, Oregon.
Wow, okay. So then what did your parents do for work when you were a kid?
My parents, I never got to know them.
You never did? Were you an orphan child?
No, my mother, she had a bad thing, and they took me early. And they didn't think I was old enough to even take her as a baby, but they took me anyway, and I survived.
Wow.
So then my mother died.
Uh-huh.
And I'm named after my dad. I'm a junior. I didn't even know him.
Yeah, but you're named after him.
But I was named after him, and I wish that never happened that way. My dad was a gambler. Mm-hmm. And he was a good-looking guy, handsome guy. And I don't know, and he owed a guy a lot of money for gambling debt. And he wouldn't pay the guy. The guy said, "You're going to pay me or I'm going to kill you."
Oh, boy.
And he wouldn't pay him, and the guy killed him.
Your dad was murdered for a gambling debt?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't know anything about that.
How old was you when all this happened? Just a kid?
I didn't know.
Like real young?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very young. I didn't know a thing about it.
So who raised you then?
My grandparents on my mother's side.
And was that in Oregon as well?
Well, they were in Oregon, yeah. And my granddad had a brother that moved to Pennsylvania, Asaph.
How long ago was that?
I was just a baby, 4 years old.
So you came to Asaph when you were just a baby, and
my granddad and grandmother, his brother told him, he said, "You might like Pennsylvania, it's mountainous and quite nice." And then his granddad said, "Well, look around and see if any property's for sale there." Okay. I don't know how long it took, but just 220 acres of land come up for sale. And he told his brother, he said, "Well, let's see how much it goes for, and maybe I can buy it." Well, it's down in Stokesdale.
Your family owned Stokesdale when you were a kid?
Not my family, my grandparents.
Your grandparents owned pretty much?
Yeah, and they bought that family. You know where Bill Mead's auction barn is?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're right there, you look across the railroad track, behind Bill Mead's auction barn. The farm's over there. It was 220 acres. It was across the railroad track, across the creek. It was over there. It was a tannery way back in them days.
I saw that on the old maps. They used to grow celery in that area too, didn't they?
A big thing. I was down in the muck and everything.
Yep, not too far from where you were though, mile away or whatever.
Right there,
Yep.
Well, we had to go in right there. There was a store right there at the time. And we got permission to go through there, put a culvert in, get up over the railroad track, fill on the other side, and then cross the creek. Well, Granddad later, he had a road built in from down where they give the train rides. And you turn in on that's Muck Road. And it gets over there to the mountain, goes Canton Hollow. There's a road right there that says Corky Road, and that's the dead end road.
And that's where you grew up there? And
I've been there since I was 4 years old.
You spent your whole life there, and you were at the Wellsboro Shared Home now, but you lived there?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
My granddad was in the First World War, and then his son was in the Second World War. He was a medic, and he said he was on a ship going across, getting our boys, bringing them back. No legs, no arms.
Yeah.
Terrible situation.
Wow.
Well, anyway, he done his service. My brother, he's a year and a half older than me, and he joined the military. He was a medic, and he served in Japan. Okay, and he said none of the medics could ever wear their crosses on their shoulders. They shot them first thing out, kill the medics. Well, he said it was so bad over there, even on the ship when they were trying to go over, the jets were flying over and trying to bomb them out. He said we had to have our aircraft with us, escorting us all the way across to keep us there. He said, and bringing the boys back. No arms, no legs. He said it was terrible.
I can imagine. War is terrible. You heard the stories firsthand about World War I from your grandpa being over there and family.
Granddad never talked much about it.
No. I think a lot of people had a hard time talking after those type of things.
My uncle, he didn't really talk about it either, Then my brother, he joined the military, and he went in as a medic. And I said he served in Japan.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Undercover and doing his work.
He made it home, and he lives in Elmira, New York.
Yeah,
I go all my medical stuff to the VA up to Bath.
Sure.
I think the world of them, and they take the world good care of all of us.
Well, we owe it to our veterans, so thank you for your service. And I don't think people now have any idea what World War I and World War II was like. There was no communication back home when you were over there, right? You were on a boat for weeks to get there, I imagine.
I was up there in the bath in the hospital there for quite a while. I never heard of Vietnam. And one day I went in the shower room and the guy was in there getting a shower. And I said, "Oh, you're a new guy in our unit." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Where you been?" "Well, sure." He said, "Nam." I said, "Nam, where the hell is the Nam?" You know? He said, "Vietnam." I said, "I don't know where that's at." Well, I learned about Vietnam shortly thereafter. Some of my best friends right from Stokesdale, they went through, you know, big time.
Yeah.
One guy, he's down south, buried in the big military cemetery. He was a helicopter operator in Vietnam.
Yep.
And he said the best thing you could do in a helicopter in Vietnam, he says, you went down and picked them up, and he said you went up as fast as you could with that helicopter, get out of range of their firing. And he took a couple boys that were from Wellsboro over there, and they worked communications and stuff. And he said, we got a big tower out here. He said, and they're getting ready to fire on it and destroy that tower. He says, we can't lose it. He said, you two guys, he said, you're getting this helicopter, I'm taking you there. And you're going to have a half an hour to try to find out what's wrong. And so he took them there, dropped them down. He said, I'll be back in a half an hour. And they said, boy, stuff was coming over and bang, 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 bang. And they said they were scared. They said, we're not going to get out of here. Yeah. Pretty soon they heard chop, 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 chop. Here comes the helicopter. He come down, he picked them up, sucked them up, and boom, went up just as fast as he could. He said, we got to get the hell out of here.
Wow.
And them two boys were both from Wellsboro.
Yeah. Frank Youngworth, I don't know if you know him. He was in Vietnam, graduated Wellsboro High School. He was shot down 7 times in Vietnam in his helicopter, over 200 bullet holes before he stopped counting. You know, he was in high school and was drafted, and the stories he had, too. Just terrible living conditions, not knowing if you were going to live the next day.
Yeah. A lot of the neighbors there from Wellsboro was in the service and whatever.
So tell me a little bit before that. Going to school, what school did you go to what was your first school?
Down to Marsh Creek to the school down there to 7th grade. Then I went to Wellsboro when they was building the new school. I was in there.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to elementary school or just start in 7th grade?
Started first grade.
That school down there. That was a 2-room schoolhouse or a few rooms?
We're still down there at church now. And then I went to Wellsboro to up there when they built the new school. Mm-hmm. I was one of the first classes in that.
So did you work on the farm as a kid?
Yeah, Granddad, he farmed with horses, made the hay and everything else, and milked cows by hand. And
wow. How many cows did you have? Do you remember? It wasn't a couple hundred like today.
2 or 3 cows and whatever, good enough to give milk. Grandmother made up butter and all kinds of stuff, you know.
Yep.
But Granddad, he was a Virginian, you know.
How often did your family come into town when you were a kid? Did they come into Wellsboro much, or did you pretty much? We come to Wellsboro and shopped, and there was a store right there in Wellsboro right there then, and there's all little stores and stuff, you know. But did you go to the movies ever? Did you come to town for entertainment? Go to the Arcadia Theater or?
The theater a few times and watched a few things. Sometimes they had country music singers in there playing and stuff, you know. And I liked country music, so I'd go up there and listen to them.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever see any famous country singers?
Oh, yeah. Some I can't remember their names now. Yeah. Some of the big ones were there.
Wow.
We didn't have these big things like Walmart and all that around when I was a kid, you know.
There was no chain restaurants or anything. When you were a kid, there was no McDonald's, there was no Burger King, there was...
No, none of that stuff.
Everything was all...
That stuff all come in later and later and later, you know. I never dreamed I'd ever see a Walmart store, you know.
Yeah.
All them great big huge places and things like that. It's like I go in there, like I get lost.
Did you have brothers or sisters or anything, or was it just you?
Just one brother.
How did you guys keep yourself entertained? There was no TV, right, when you were growing up?
No TV.
And not much radio back then either, right?
Hardly any radio.
And the newspaper, you had to come to town to pick it up?
Well, I don't know. They got it somewhere.
Somehow, yeah. Remember the trains coming through where your fields were there?
What was it?
The trains coming to Wellsboro.
They come through a couple times a day from down to Junction, down there where the trains all, whatever,
Were they passenger trains when you were a kid still?
No, they were just freight trains and stuff like that. No passenger trains then.
Did you ever hop on a train and take a little free ride?
We used to go over to the railroad track and they come up through there real slow. And of course there's smoke and, you know, burn coal and all that. And they'd be going so slow that we could jump on right up 12 and jump right off. We'd get on in the middle of the train where they couldn't see us, you know. Grandmother, she was a well-educated lady. She'd done well and whatever. She was a pianist and music and all that stuff, and she loved people and just done a lot of stuff for people, you know. Everybody loved my grandparents because they were just people.
I have great respect for my grandparents, too. There's nobody quite like them anymore. They were so giving, so caring. Family meant so much to people then, and I'm afraid a lot of that's changed in this world.
Oh, yeah. No, grandmother, she had a daughter, and they lived out in Oregon. My grandmother, after granddad died, she went to Oregon and lived with them. And I went out to Oregon a couple times to see her, you know. She was so happy to see me and stuff. When she passed away, you know, I didn't go to her funeral. I couldn't get out there, you know, it's whatever.
To get to Oregon from here was, what, a whole week back then?
Oh, Lord, yes. Well, my brother could tell you all about the trip back. He remembered everything. He said, Granddad built a wagon, had an old car, you know, pulled with. He said, we come here to Pennsylvania about this property, you know. He said, we had a tent, we pitched it, and we played it at night and stuff, you know. And he told me a lot of things about the trip back. I don't remember a thing about that trip.
Yeah.
But my brother's got a good memory. He's like an elephant, don't he?
Remembers it all.
And my brother's always been meticulous about everything. He liked making these airplanes and little things, you know. He said, don't you touch them.
Yeah.
He had a temper, you know. He had a terrible temper. If I had to pick something up, put that down. You know, don't touch that. To this day, he can still make the nicest stuff in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was a professionist and everything. He was a mason in construction, laying block and all that stuff. He was the one that built all the corners for every building that we built. You remember the big prison up in Elmira they built?
Yes.
Okay, that was a $30 million job, 2-year project. And the Streeter Associates, who we both family all worked for, I got that job. And I was in that job for about 6 or 7 months, and they called me into the office in Elmira, and they said, Corky, we're going to share some information with nobody else knows, but we're going to share it with you. The state wants that prison. And they said if we'll turn that prison over to them 1 month prior to the finishing date that we already had, they'll give us $1 million. And they put their finger right here on it and they said, we want that $1 million.
And did you make it?
And I said, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
We had about 6 or 8 subs on that job because it was so big. You know what a sub is? People that are doing other parts on the job. So I went back and I got them all together. I said, okay, fellas, I'm going to share some information with you, and only you people are going to know it. I said, this prison, they want it, you know, this month or so prior to our finishing date. And I said, they told me they want that money, you know. And I said, so pick up the pace or you're out of the race. And I was pouring floors and putting up walls and everything else. It was terrible. I said, I told you, pick up the pace.
Yeah.
Know? And
this is when people didn't want to lose a job. Nowadays, people aren't afraid of losing a job. They bounce job to job. But when you're at that age, people respected their job. They appreciated their job. They're part of a team. And losing their job could be devastating, right?
You know where the Arnott Mall is?
Sure.
I was superintendent on that job. And I was on other big jobs all over the place. You know, we built prisons, we built schools, we done anything and everything. But Streeters took good care of us guys.
Yeah.
Big time. My son, he's 54 years old. He's a superintendent for Streeters. He's up in Cornell right now doing a big job up there.
Wow. So you've got a pretty interesting family history of things that you've done.
Oh, just all construction and whatever.
Important construction, though. Very respectable.
Oh, big stuff.
Yeah.
Big
stuff that's still here to this day that everyone knows about. So who would have thought that 50, 70 years later or whatever it was? Tell me about your first car. What was the first car that you had?
Oh, the first automobile I bought, oh, Lord.
Do you remember it?
I can't even remember what it was. But it wasn't nothing fancy or anything like that. Just something I could get around in.
Mm-hmm. So what do you remember about high school in Wellsboro?
You know where the school is there in Wellsboro? Mm-hmm. It was a brand new school and it wasn't open. Then they opened it and they took us right out of our schools and put us in up there. Well, no, I went to Charleston first. And I went about a half a year out to Charleston, that school, and then they opened up the school in Wellsboro. I went right there. In the shop and in our ag room, I could look right out the window and look right down the valley to our farm. You know? Mm-hmm. And I'd go outside and look down, you know.
Daydream about.
I could walk there, you know. I was in agriculture in school. and whatever.
Did you bring your own lunch to school then, or did they have a cafeteria for you?
We had a cafeteria, but we carried our lunch too.
Yeah.
Depended, you know.
Brown bagged your lunch. Did you have electricity on the farm, or did you have an ice man bring your ice, and how did you?
Yeah, they had that brought ice and stuff like that. That was a big thing, having ice and putting it whatever. But then we got a refrigerator. I mean, granted, we had an old telephone, you know, 10 people were on the line.
A party line. Rubbernecking, right?
I can remember grandmother sitting in her chair, and I'd come home from school, and here laid the phone thing under her ear, you know. And I said, Grandma, you've been rubbernecking again.
There it is, rubbernecking. There's my term.
Rubbernecking.
A lot of people do around here.
The ladies were on the phone, they all talked.
Yeah.
Grandma, you're rubbernecking some more.
That's how you found out what was going on in the world.
Yeah, whatever. But anyway, things changed and changed and changed.
Yep. Do you remember when Elvis first came out? You said you liked country music. Did you like Elvis? Elvis was kind of country.
A lot.
Some of the adults didn't like Elvis back when he first came out.
Yeah, he was a jumper and a dancer, all that stuff. But he could sing and play, boy, I tell you.
Elvis the Pelvis, I think, was the nickname. They kept the camera up high on him because they didn't want...
I enjoyed Elvis.
Yeah, he was a great performer. Did you see the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show? Did you have TV by then?
We got television later, you know, and whatever. And I thought, really, that's really something, you know.
First time you saw TV, you got, what, one channel maybe?
Yeah, whatever, wasn't nothing, you know, but then things changed, and well, even down there, and then I put a big satellite dish up, you know, and I got all kinds of channels and everything else. But I'm in the here now, you know.
Yep, at the Wellsboro Shared Home. And how long have you lived here at the Wellsboro Shared Home?
Well, I haven't been in here that long, but I was in the other one just above it here, the Green Home. Mm-hmm. I was in there for a couple of years. They took real good care of us old vets and stuff, you know.
Yep, make some good friends and everything. This seems like a great place.
Yeah, everything was just wonderful in there. They took so good care of us, you know.
Sure.
There was a lot of old vets in there, you know. And I see them to this day. I go and pat them on the back, give them a big hug.
You should. There are a lot of veterans in this area.
Yeah.
This area has a very high percentage of people who chose to go military direction, very patriotic area.
Yeah.
Did you go to church when you were younger? Were you attending a church here?
We were Seventh-day Adventists.
Mm-hmm.
Grandmother became a Seventh-day Adventist, and so she was real strict about all that, you know. And
you wore your Sunday best to church, something people don't know about now, and special clothes. Did you?
No, we're not Mennonites or Amish.
Oh, okay. No, I remember even myself as a kid with church, Mom would always say, put on your clean shoes, your nice clothing. We're going to church when I was a kid. And that was. I grew up in Massachusetts, so
Massachusetts,
the Catholic Church in Massachusetts when I was a kid. But Mom, I remember Mom saying that Easter every year we'd go get our new shoes for Easter and our Easter outfit every year. Yeah. There was special times that you wanted to try to be your best out of respect.
Yeah. How things have changed.
Yeah. So you had a party line, and then do you remember when it switched to a regular? You had to talk to an operator, right, when you called?
Oh yeah, you got the operator and whatever, you know. But that's all gone.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's long gone.
So what do you think about today's world versus the old world? Before you shared a party line, you know, the phone sounded terrible. You couldn't really.
No.
Do you like today's world better, or do you miss the old days?
Oh, I don't know. The old days are gone, but you know, things are different. I hung out with the Amish for about 10 years, hauling Amish all over the place, and I really liked them. You know, they're hard workers and strict about everything. And then they go places and leave, and they say, "Corky, will you keep the fire going in the house? You know, we'll be gone for a couple of days." I said, "Yeah, I'll take care of the fire and keep the fire going and stuff like that." But I said, "I'm not going to milk the cow." I let the horses out of the barn, and they'd go up in the barn to a big watering trough and drink, and then they'd go right back to their stalls, and I'd feed the horses.
Yeah.
I drove horses for them. I skidded logs and stuff out of the woods with them, and I run chainsaw all the time, you know. And they said, "Boy, you're a handy hand."
Those chainsaws are heavy back then that you were using.
Yeah, but I was pretty rugged back then.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed my time with the Amish.
And was that in this area? The Amish families, were there Amish in Tioga County that you worked with, or outside of the area?
Yeah, what was it, about 15, 18 miles over there where the Amish group was at. But the Amish, they only live so long at a place, and then he tells them they have to move out, you know, move to another area. But I love being around with the Amish. Everything was with horses, and they had nice big work horses, and everything was buggy, buggies, unless they took a bus and went somewhere, But other than that, they're horse and buggies, and here they went, and there they come. I enjoyed my time with the Amish.
Well, good. Anything else that you'd like to share about your life or memories when you were a kid, or things that you did in town, or a favorite place for ice cream or a restaurant, or any memories that you have?
I dreamed we'd see Walmart stores and stuff like that,
Yeah.
First time I went in one of them big stores, I was like, you're lost in them.
Yeah, they don't feel as personal as the mom and pop stores. You don't go in and say hi to.
Oh yeah.
Where you walk into Paxton's, you'd see Jim Paxton and his dad in there or whatever. But you walk into Walmart now, a whole different world.
Things have really changed.
People used to fix their stuff when they broke. Was there a cobbler in Wellsboro? I assume there probably was. And people broke their shoes then. People would fix them. When people ripped their pants, they would mend them. Now they just throw them out and go back to Walmart and get another pair for.
Yeah, all my kids, they all went through college and got good jobs. My oldest daughter, I wanted a boy first. I married a German girl. I met her over there in church.
On duty in Germany?
Well, yeah, I was in active duty in Germany.
And that's where you met your wife?
Well, I met her in church, and I had a girlfriend home when I left home. She was going to go to teaching school. And I said, well, I'm going to join the military and take up heavy equipment and all this and learn to run equipment, because that's the guy that was on the construction. I said, I want to get in the engineers local,
Yeah.
He said, well, you don't have no experience. He said, I'd tell you the best thing, you join the military and take it up in there. When I took his advance, I went into the place up there in Wellsboro, and I told the guy, I said, I want to join the Army. And he looked at me, he said, join the Army. He said, why do you want to join the Army? I said, I want to learn how to run heavy equipment and everything. I told him, he said, they got the best equipment in the world, so go in the military and take it up in there. So I did.
Yep.
They trained me on everything they had.
And then you ended up eventually in the military. You were telling me your job was you were a demolition person in the military. You were there to take out bridges and...
I was blow up everything. Fire in the hole, fire in the hole, fire in the hole, bang, and it was gone. Yeah, but anyway, I got through it, and I'm glad I got home. I was thrilled when I was going to come home,
What was it like when you came home? Do you remember that feeling land back in the United States?
Back in the middle of winter, okay, and it was in December or something. And of course I had to leave Frankfurt. I was in Frankfurt, Germany, in the headquarters and stuff, but I had to take a train and go north to pick where I would catch my ship to bring me back, Well, I went up there, and that ship was a humongous thing. It was named after a colonel or whatever, and everything, people's cars, and there was all kinds just down the hole,
Yeah.
But it was a huge ship. You go up there, here's that big ship.
But not like today's cruise liners. They were your rocking ship and accommodations.
My job on the ship, ironic, I had to go to 2 classes for about 10 weeks. The first one, there was about 20 or 30 of us in the room. There was nothing on the desk, and we're all sitting in there, and in come a lady officer. 2 guys come up here, pass out these books. And I'm in the middle of the class sitting in there, what's this all about? What's this all about? I opened my book up, I about fainted. It was shorthand.
My mom used to now do that. That's nobody else does.
They can't have me in here doing that. I don't know anything. I hated it when the kids had it in school. Well, I had 10 weeks of that, and I hated every minute of it. Well, then I got 10 weeks of typing. It was manual typewriter. And I come out in the top 10 of both of them.
You tried too hard. So when you came back to American soil after you were done with your duty with World War II, was it a big party when you came home? People excited?
No.
Lots? No.
No big parties or nothing like that. Just glad to have you home.
Yeah. I heard Mansfield after World War II, everyone came to town and there was a big celebration in town. When the war ended, everyone just came into town beeping their horns and yelling and cheering and so excited about victory.
Yeah.
Well, Corky, it's been very interesting. I appreciate you spending your time and sharing some of your early memories with us here on KC101.
Yeah.
I wish you the best. And we're here at the Wellsboro Shared Home with Corky Hinman. And you said you were how old?
I'm 83 years old.
83 years old. All right. Started your life in Oregon, but lived pretty much all your life up Stokesdale, which is just north of Wellsboro. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Corky, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, that's fine.
We're KC101. All brought to you by Eisenhower's Tioga County Harley Davidson. If you're looking for a new bike, a used bike, any service for your bike, go see the folks at Eisenhower.